Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today is Thursday. It is July 23rd, 2020. Thanks so much for joining me. The unemployment numbers are out, and 1.4 million Americans filed for unemployment last week. That brings the total squarely in the 40 million unemployed since the outbreak of the pandemic. There was a downtick in the unemployment. People were getting rehired when all of the states said that, hey, let's reopen the economy, and people started getting their old jobs back. But then that led to an uptick in coronavirus cases, which brings us to some other staggering numbers about the reality of where we are right now. The U.S. is reporting over 1,000 deaths from COVID-19 every single day. Over 1,000 Americans are dying from COVID-19 every single day. And remember, a week or two ago, everyone was like, well, cases are up, but people aren't dying. That's because COVID is, unfortunately, in some cases, a very slow killer. People struggle with it for weeks, and then it kills them. And as we look at these numbers of thousands of people dying a day, these are people who got infected in May and in June. And now we're seeing 50,000 some odd people get infected every single day in this country, with 1,000 people dying a day. Do we realize how many people 1,000 individuals are? How many families are mourning how many new families are mourning every single day? How many families have to figure out how they're going to live the rest of their life without their loved one every single day? And even worse, if you think about it, it's actually even worse because those families have probably been exposed to COVID-19 themselves, and they have to figure out not only if we live, how we're going to live without our loved one, but also, are we even going to live ourselves? The complexity and the not even complexity, but the compounding misery and grief that is happening around this country. I think we lose touch with that magnitude of grief because they just sometimes become numbers. But 1,000 people a day, it's 1,000 different stories that are no longer being told or lived. There's 1,000 different families and thousands, exponentially the number of friends and loved ones who are grieving the loss of that individual, but also exponentially the number of people that individual probably inadvertently infected with COVID-19. So we have on one hand, the unemployment numbers are going up again. On the other hand, we have COVID deaths in the thousands per day. And we're facing an end. 2 days left. 1 day left. The eviction moratoriums that are across the country, the last remaining eviction moratoriums expire this Friday. And unemployment, the additional increase that people are getting in unemployment, that also ends this weekend, this Friday. So here we are with compounding problems. And there's a debate in Congress. The people who are, let me not even put it that nicely, the fools that are in Congress have not done anything to help the American people the way that they have helped corporations. When it's time to discuss helping Wall Street and helping corporations and billionaires, they have no conversation whatsoever about the American debt. They have no hesitation, no reservation. They fly in to the rescue and pour trillions of dollars into these markets, into these corporations, giving them low interest loans and then sometimes forgivable loans with a litany of corporations, of multi-billion-dollar corporations that are now having those loans forgiven. Meanwhile, they want to have a conversation about the debt when it comes in terms of the people. This is a game that has been played over and over and over again. It's a game that Republicans have no problem with the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is baked in. The hypocrisy, the willingness to look at corporations and say there's literally no amount of money. Wall Street, there's literally no amount of money that we won't write to you The ability to say that and then turn to the American people and say, but if we, you have to go out and work in the pandemic. We shouldn't be giving you this money to be staying home. We shouldn't be giving you more money on unemployment than you got as an employee. Never mind the fact that that means that you should have been paid more as an employee. The hypocrisy is not the thing, because and this is actually something I learned from Michael Brooks. Michael Brooks pointed this out to me about 3 years ago when we were doing an episode together. And he was like, I understand you point out the hypocrisy, Ben, but you got to understand that the hypocrisy is the point. The hypocrisy is the point. There's no utility in pointing out the hypocrisy, was his exact words. There's no benefit from pointing out the hypocrisy because they do not care. Republicans, conservatives, the ruling elite of both parties, they do not care about being concerned about the debt when it comes to you and your pocketbook and your survival of this pandemic. But they have zero regard. They have literally opened up the coffers of America and printed money and given trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars to corporations, to the stock markets, to billionaires. So the hypocrisy is not the thing. The thing that we have to realize that we have to do is to get solidarity. More than ever before, we absolutely have to have as much solidarity as humanly possible, because our salvation is never going to come from Washington, D.C. Our salvation is never going to come from politicians. Our salvation is only going to come from the people, because they are playing games with us in Washington, D.C. They are playing games with us, and they expect us to be so divided, which is true. We are so divided right now. Everyone is scrambling, finding their own individual cause, which I understand. I get it. I get the natural inclination. But those causes, in some cases, are bringing us at odds with each other. We are so divided, the masses, the people, we are divided, and to the point where we have now poor people fighting against poor people, because unemployed people are getting $600 a week, but essential workers are barely getting any hazard pay. And now you have poor people fighting against poor people. Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos made $13 billion on Monday of this week alone. And so long as they keep us divided and fighting and bickering over the minutia, their singular focus is on protecting corporations, billionaires, Wall Street, and the military-industrial complex. They are going to, the only thing the ruling elite and their bought and paid for politicians are focused on is protecting capitalism and protecting imperialism. That's it. They don't care about all the minutia. They don't care about all of the things that we bicker over. They just throw those things out there to keep us fighting each other. They throw out culture wars to keep us fighting amongst each other. They throw out and don't get it twisted. There are issues that have to be fought. But while we're fighting each other over them, the rulers of this country are sitting back, writing themselves trillions of dollars in wealth and leaving us out here in the middle of a damn pandemic to fend for ourselves. Literally, this is no hyperbole. This is no exaggeration. The federal government has done everything it could. It gave the American people $1,200 4 months ago, or however many months. It was months ago. That money was gone. That's not even enough money for people to pay rent one time. One time. And yet there are corporations and businesses and markets that have received trillions of dollars in bailouts. And yet the thing that is being argued about now, is whether or not people who lost their jobs deserve $600 a week, $2,400 a month, $2,400 a month. And the complaint is that these people are getting more money than they got when they were workers, when they had their jobs. Well, you know what? That's an indictment of capitalism. That's an indictment of how poorly we pay workers in this country. But they know that, and they don't care about the hypocrisy. What they really want, what these people, I want every person who is poor, every person who is a laborer, every person who makes less than $300-$400 an hour, every single one of us to hear me very clearly. They do not want labor. They hate your labor. They despise the fact that they have to pay you anything. This country was founded on slavery because they did not want to pay labor costs. They do not want you. If they could get rid of you and let you starve, they would get rid of you and let you starve. They do not care about your well-being. All they care about is reducing their labor costs. And as soon as automation is here, they're going to give you the boot, and they don't give a shit about what happens to you. And this is the perfect example. What's going on right now shows you exactly what will be done when this economy goes into full automation. They will have no regard for you. So if you think that you are somebody special because you're out here working and you make $35 an hour doing X, Y, and Z for this corporation, they do not want you. They despise your labor. They despise your labor costs. They despise the fact that they have to write a check to pay for you to help them make money. And the problem is that a lot of people think because they make $50 an hour that they out here stunting, that they out here doing a damn thing. Like they balling. One day they're going to be rich. No, the hell you're not, because at the first opportunity they have to cut your labor costs, you are done. And so everyone needs to understand this is an eternal struggle. I don't care what anybody says. This fight between capital and labor will never go away, except for the fact that we are coming up on automation. And as soon as they can get rid of paying human labor and buy one piece of equipment that could replace you, you are done. And what we have right now, I know this is repetitive, but I want you to understand what the government is doing to people right now, leaving you out here to fend for yourself, leaving 1/3 of Americans who could not pay their rent in July. Evictions of about 21 million evictions are getting ready to occur. And the fact that they are giving corporations trillions of dollars to survive this, but didn't want to give you $1,200 and haven't given you anything since. That is the reality that we are going to face as laborers, as people who provide our labor as a service to this economy. They are going to just dispose of us and continue to make their money. And this is why it is utterly ridiculous and downright stupid, ignorant for people who don't make their living completely off of capital gains to be at odds with other people who do not make their living off of capital gains. If you get up and have to go punch anybody's clock, I don't care how nice your office is, I don't care how prestigious you feel when you go into that workplace, if you go and punch anybody's clock and you are paid as a laborer in any capacity, whether you're crunching numbers or you're throwing a sledgehammer, it is ridiculous for you to be at odds with other laborers, with other workers. It is asinine because you will not be protected in this new economy. You will not be your prestigious job will go away in this new economy. And they will treat you who think that you're stunting, think that you're balling, think that you doing it for the gram, think that you're living the glamorous life, think that you're going to get rich because you make $50 an hour. They will abandon you just like they have abandoned the 40 million Americans who don't have a job right now, just like they abandoned the essential workers who can't even get $1 extra in hazard pay. And they're trying to pit all of us against each other because that's the easiest thing to do. That is the easiest game to play. It has been played throughout history, time immemorial. They have always been able to get powerless people to fight with other powerless people instead of fighting the powerful. Or how this one tweet said it perfectly, capitalism got the poor being mad at the poor. Let me tell you why this matters. Let me jump into this a little bit more with some specific examples. I talked about this yesterday, and I talked about it in vague terms. And I know you probably like, I hate when Ben does that. Like, Ben knows, he knows something's up. He has specific examples in his head, but he doesn't say them. It's because I like to take my time to say things sometimes, but I digress. That's not important. I have specific examples. I want you to take a look at a couple of tweets. The people who tweeted it, it's not important. Not important. What's important is what they're saying and the kind of reach that it got, that they're getting, and the timing of it. I want you to take a look at this first one. He said, essential workers have a valid reason to be upset about people sitting at home getting $600 LOL. Now, again, I don't care about who the individual is, pretty small account, but I want you to look at the reach of this tweet. 65,000 retweets, 269,000 likes. This message, and actually, let me keep going before I even go. Here's another one. Here's someone said, I worked my ass off at Amazon with a hot and sweaty mask, risking my life while unemployment got $600 sitting on their ass. Make it make sense. Okay. This is what I kind of got. I had my suspicions that this was coming. And then I started seeing one tweet and then another. And I'm like, something coordinated is happening here at the very time where Congress is discussing continuing the $600 a week benefit for people who are unemployed. And then all of a sudden, here come more tweets. Here's, people on unemployment shouldn't have got the extra $600. They should have gave that to essential workers. Again, the individual, the people, that doesn't matter because they're small accounts. And this is not about putting those individuals on blast at all. It's about the idea that exists. Like, I'm not trying to suggest that these ideas are a coordinated psyop, right? What I'm saying is this type of thinking exists, and all it takes is a handful of people with enough reach to create this division or to exacerbate the division that already exists. Because America has invested in this capitalistic system across the globe, has invested tremendous amounts of money and resources into making sure that the poor will always be mad at other poor people. And most of all, for people to not even understand that they are poor. But let me read a couple of more. Look at this one. This one right here, man. This is the one I wanted to burn Twitter down. I wanted to get some hackers and just burn the whole thing to the ground. She said the money should have been sent to the landlords first, and then the remainder sent to the unemployed. Let me tell you, that last one didn't get a lot of reach, but I just wanted to throw that in there so that you can understand my pain. Okay. I want you to be sure about something. That while I understand very clearly, and I want you to also understand very clearly that this is the type of thinking that is ingrained in our capitalistic consumer society. And these are very real thoughts from very real people. I do also want you to recognize that this is lockstep with the ruling elite who want to not give us anything and want to give billionaires and corporations everything. And so while these people's thoughts are genuine and they probably really feel this angst, the reality of it is they are useful idiots being servants of the ruling elite. That, I don't know, maybe they think one day they will become a part of the ruling elite. That is the American delusion. The American dream is the American delusion, and these people have bought into it. Furthermore, they have pit themselves, poor people against other poor people, workers against workers, unemployed workers, yes, but still workers nevertheless. And we have workers making enemies of other workers, completely ignoring, particularly that one tweet. I'll pull it back up on your screen. The one where the individual is saying that she worked her ass off at Amazon and put her life at risk. Yes, you did. And yes, you had people fighting on your behalf. Christopher Smalls, leading a whole revolution at Amazon, lost his job fighting on your behalf. But even more importantly than that,
You're mad at unemployment workers getting $600 a week. Jeff Bezos got $13 billion in a single day. Again, this boils down to the framework that I gave you yesterday. Who do you blame for the problems of the world, of society? Do you blame the most powerful people in the world or the people with the least amount of power in the world? Do you turn your energy and your rage towards the powerful or the powerless? And how utterly ridiculous is it for someone who has no power to turn around and blame someone else who has no power? Why do we do it? Because it's easy. It is easier to go against another poor person, another worker, another laborer, than it is to go against capital, than it is to go against the ruling elite, than it is to go against the bosses, to go against Jeff Bezos. $13 billion in one day, and you're worried about somebody who made $600 a week on unemployment.
And do they realize what they look like? They look like the master's table has dropped some crumbs. And instead of the people standing up and overthrowing the master's table, they're fighting with each other over the crumbs and getting mad with each other over the crumbs that the other group got. Why are we fighting with each other over the crumbs from the master's table when there are enough of us to overthrow that shit? Jeff Bezos made $13 billion. And made, that's the wrong word. Jeff Bezos collected $13 billion in a single day, and we're fighting over who gets $600 a week in unemployment benefits. The problem is that, like I said at the beginning of this segment, that is a mindset that exists and it persists. It probably will always be here. The mindset of people who are more determined to fight against other workers than they will ever fight against capital. Because they fancy themselves to be aspiring wealthy people, aspiring millionaires, aspiring billionaires. They just haven't come into, they're just temporarily displaced billionaires. And eventually they will get there. And so long as they have like the trinkets of a luxurious lifestyle, like the appearance of a luxurious lifestyle, like so long as they can take the right picture for Instagram, and so long as they can scrape up their money and borrow money from here and borrow money from there and go out to the club and pop some bottles, and if their best friend or their uncle really probably didn't send them a cash app, they wouldn't be able to pay the bill that night, and they probably would have been in jail that night. But it didn't matter because they made it through. They had a good time. They popped bottles. They sat on the rooftop. They toasted to the glamorous life. They took all the pictures and all the selfies they needed for Instagram. And everybody else thinks, oh, they're having such a fabulous life. At the end of the day, they're just a worker struggling like every other worker struggling. But they don't see themselves as a worker struggling. They see themselves as an aspiring billionaire, and they look down on other people who are in the same exact position as they are. And they need to make up their mind. Either they are going to continue to be the useful idiots for billionaires and find themselves on the wrong side of a revolution, or they can come to their senses and realize that all of us, all of the workers across the world need to unite.
Pretty white TT, pretty white TT, pretty white TT, pretty white TT, pretty white TT.
I want to say one more thing about this. I'm sorry, but this has got me. I'll talk about other things in the Patron episode. I'll give you another topic as soon as the Patron party is over, and then I'll give you a couple of extra topics in the Patrons only episode, patreon.com. But this thing has got me. I need everyone to realize that if you get up in the morning and you punch a clock, whether it's virtually or it's literally, if you are providing your body, whether it be your brain or otherwise, and you're providing labor and you're making your money off of labor, we are all in the same damn boat. I don't care how glamorous your job makes you feel. At the end of the day, you're still labor. And just as soon as your industry can replace their labor force and automate it, then your job will be gone just as fast as someone else's that you happen to look down on because their job is not as glamorous as yours. You are still labor, my friend, labor. I need to repeat that. If you think that you are special because your job gives you the sensation of a luxurious lifestyle and prestige because you're working in an office building or you work in coding or you work wherever you work, and you feel and I'm not talking, this is not categorical. I'm not talking to everybody. I'm talking to those people who cannot see that their labor is in the same boat as whatever labor they happen to look down on. Whatever group of people you get disgusted with the service workers at a fast food restaurant because they took a little too long to bring you your burger. And then you question whether or not, they don't need $15 an hour to serve me a burger. or if you feel like people who are currently unemployed labor don't deserve something because you're not getting it. Those types of divisions are exactly what's going to ensure that you are never protected and that you don't get what your labor really deserves. That's the sad reality. Because whether you would ever admit it or not, the fact that you provide labor for your living in any, I don't care if you are a doctor, you need to understand that as soon as technology has gotten to the point where they can replace you, you are as expendable as a person who flips burgers. It may take a little longer to get to your industry, but they want to get rid of your labor as well. Capital does not want to pay labor. It never has. It never will want to pay. They always need to cut their costs, and they cut the costs in labor. So as soon as your labor can be replaced by automation so much cheaper, your ass is fired just like everybody else.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
And here we go. At this point in every single episode, I'd like to take a minute to thank the people who make this show possible and provide for my labor, our patrons. Very special welcome to Jamie. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Tara Vaughn, thank you for becoming a patron. Mary Klinkert, thank you for becoming a patron. Connor Harrington, thank you for becoming a patron. Wait a minute now. Everybody just bob your head. Aaron Salden, thank you for becoming a patron. Jerome, thank you for becoming a patron. Paul Meredith, thank you for becoming a patron. Sleep, thank you for becoming a patron. Ithaca Comic, thank you for becoming a patron. And Spirited Yarn, thank you for becoming a patron. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/the BPD Show, where you get twice the content, uncut, unfiltered interviews, and you give me the ability to speak truth to power, whether the powerful like it or not.
Welcome back to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Yep. Yeah. All right, let me close out. I've got clips and videos and stuff I want to talk about in the Patrons episode. I'll be talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ted Cruz and just, some normal politics. But I just needed this part to be the public show because we have to have solidarity. We have to have as many. It's not going to be universal solidarity because there are going to always be people who are servants of this system, who don't even realize that they are locked and trapped in this system, who feel like one day they will be beneficiaries of the system and never really come to terms with the fact that at every single step that they try to get ahead, there's a new level of consumerism and debt that's there to always exploit you. There's going to always be something that is there to just strip away the profits of your labor, the fruits of your labor. And they don't come there. There will always be those people who never realize that they have been, they're not successful in life. They're a successful cog in this capitalistic machine. And so it will never be universal solidarity that we will get But we've got to get as many people as possible to understand what we're up against. We're up against a regime that does not care about us. This is clear. No, if you want to engage in the pettiness of our American politics, you may not see it. Because you'll think that the problems in America are really only Donald Trump. Or you think the problems, if you happen to be like a libertarian-esque person listening to the show, you may think the problems are just Democrats. No, the problem is the entire system that both Democrats and Republicans benefit from. And it is being unveiled to us very, clear as possible. It doesn't get any more crystal clear than what this government is failing to do for the people in this pandemic, when other nations with far less wealth than us, they are both providing for their citizens to stay home safely. They are protecting their essential workers and giving their essential workers significant hazard pay on top of what they're probably giving people who are staying at home. Like they're giving every citizen. They're providing for every citizen. And they are controlling the pandemic to the point where people can almost go back to normal lives in certain countries. In most countries, except the United States and the UK. It's because the United States is more interested in the quarterly profit margins of the ruling elite than they are even your life. They don't care about you. And if we take this time, if this moment ends up being divided between all of our petty bickering around cancel culture and around, whatever else they have us arguing about today, if this moment is wasted on the frivolous things that divide us, while the ruling elite focuses solely on providing for this capitalistic system and the military, the imperialistic system globally, they're not confused about what they're fighting for. You could look at the votes on the attempt to defund to take 10%, just 10% from the military, to just cut the budget by 10%, and you had hundreds of Democrats and Republicans say, hell no. That's because they are clear about their assignment. Their assignment is to protect capitalism and the military-industrial complex, imperialism. That is their mission. They're clear on that, while we are not clear on our mission as the people. Our mission as the people has to be to tear that system down. Why? Because we want to? No, honestly, I would rather go in the backyard and barbecue. But the reality of it is that they are putting us in an untenable position where now, instead of providing for the people like they have provided for Wall Street, they have the people fighting each other in the middle of a pandemic where hundreds of thousands of lives are going to be lost. 150 have already been lost. What else other choice do we have but to stand up? Patrons, stay tuned. Everyone else, I'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.